Welcome to the Sabbath School summaries for this week. This week we're on lesson 11. Whether you're preparing to go and teach a Sabbath School class, whether you're preparing to simply go and attend the Sabbath School class, this video is going to be so helpful for you because in this video, I will be breaking down the Sabbath School lesson in a very easy and simple way to understand. And I will be giving you some of my takeaway points from this week's lesson that you can build on for your classes. This week we are on lesson 11. Time is flying. So whatever you decide to do in this life, make sure you do it fast because time is flying and time does not wait for anyone. The title for our lesson this week is Ruth and Esther. On Sabbath afternoon, these are some of the lessons I learned. Number one, God can use ordinary people to do some extraordinary work. Because look, Ruth was just a poor, grieving widow, but later she became the great-grandmother of Jesus Christ. You remember Ruth gave birth to Obed. Obed became the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of King David, and from the lineage of King David came Jesus Christ. From Ruth, who was least expected, she was even not a Jew, she was non-Jew. She was a Moabite girl. Besides, she was a widow. On the other hand, Esther was a foreigner, but God used her to save her people from extermination. I know in every family, in every church, in every community, there is that one person, even if they raise up their hand to give their opinion, nobody will even pick their hand because we don't expect anything good to come from such people. But such people God can use to do some extraordinary work. The second lesson I learned is that prophetically, the word woman means the church. So the experiences of these two women, Ruth and Esther, reflects some of the experiences that the church will also go through in the last days. Just as they were looked less in a community, even today, people despise the church, especially the remnant church, the Seventh-day Adventist church. If you tell people, I pray in the Seventh-day Adventist church, people's reaction is almost like, oh, how do you go to that church? It's almost people looking at us and think like there's nothing good that can come out of this church. But little did they know that we carry a message that can actually save this world. That is the lesson that I can learn from this part. Part Sunday talks about famine in the house of bread. Now the word Bethlehem is translated the house of bread. There was famine in Bethlehem. Technically, there was famine in the house of bread. Interesting. But more than that, I learned two important lessons that I want to share with you. The first lesson I learned, house of bread runs out of bread. No matter how well established our systems of government can be, there is always some sort of suffering in every country. I know some of you from the past video wrote to me, you are watching me from different countries. Some of those countries we believe they are very good countries to live in because we don't hear any much chaos from those countries. But you can agree with me that even in those countries, there is some kind of sufferings that are going on. Suffering is the reality of this world today. And as we try to solve one problem, another one comes up. Naomi and the husband left Bethlehem to go to Moab to find solution because there was famine. While they reached Moab, death came in. So as we are running to and fro trying to look for solutions to our problem, put in mind that problem number 2 will always come because we live in a world that is full of problems. The second lesson I learned is that the silence of God in our suffering doesn't mean that He doesn't exist. So there is going to be toils, there is going to be sufferings, but there is always hope in all sufferings. And the bigger hope that we even have is the hope that all these sufferings that we are going through, one day God will put them to an end. That is some of the lessons that I learned from this part. Part Monday talks about Ruth and Boaz. I learned 3 lessons from this part. The first lesson I learned is that God's kindness often shows up through people. So always in life, when you walk around in life, don't look at people for the color of their skin or for the language that they speak. Always look at people for the value that they carry. Because you never know, those could be your Boaz. God could use other people to turn your stories around, just like the way He used Boaz to turn Ruth's story around. Boaz redeemed Ruth. The second lesson I learned is you are not stuck in your situation forever. God can turn your story at the right time. He can turn it around. Just like He came at the right time and turned Ruth's story, He can turn your situation around. The third lesson I learned is that God sees you even in your lowest moments. God still sees you. Ruth thought that she was simply collecting some trash, some scraps in people's gardens. Little did she know that God was actually planning something bigger for her. And then later God brought Boaz to come and redeem her. Part Tuesday talks about Boaz as a redeemer. Boaz is a type of Christ. But more than that, I learned a very important lesson on this part. And the lesson is, be careful, there is a closer relative. Now the story says Boaz was ready to marry Ruth. But there came a man who claims to be a closer relative to Naomi's late husband. Closer than even Boaz. So by right, he is the rightful person to marry Ruth. But then Boaz went to the city gates in front of all the elders, more like a legal court kind of setting, and then lawfully and legally marries Ruth as a wife and redeems Ruth. So Satan claims to be a closer relative to us, and so he also wants to claim us. That's why in Job chapter 1 verse 7, he was saying to God, I've been walking to and fro on the earth. In other words, I've been strolling around on the earth on this property of mine that I own. He is claiming us, but we have a true Redeemer who is Jesus Christ. So yes, be careful. There is a closer relative who is always going to come and trying to claim us to himself. But we belong to Christ, and he's redeeming us and claiming us through his blood that he has shed on the cross. Part Wednesday talks about Haman and Satan. The first lesson I learned is that Haman and Satan, same WhatsApp group. Haman in the story wants everyone to kneel before him and honor him, but Mordecai refused. Satan, on the other hand, took Jesus on the high places, started showing him all the kingdoms of the world, and he says, if you kneel before me and worship me, I'll give you all this kingdom. So both Haman and Satan are obsessed with power. The desire to want to be worshipped was what was actually killing them. The second lesson I learned is that big faith starts with small faith. If we compromise on today's smaller things, we may not stand firm when greater pressure comes tomorrow. Smaller things, if we compromise on it, when a bigger pressure comes later tomorrow, it will be very difficult for us to stand that pressure in these final days. Mordecai refused to compromise even on the smaller thing. Part Thursday then talks about, for such a time as this. I learned two great lessons on this part. The first lesson is that prophecy brings hope, not fear. I know sometimes we focus so much on the troubles that will come, and the Bible is honest about it. Troubles will come. Sometimes we focus so much on the troubles, we forget to focus on the victory that will come. It's okay to learn about the beast and what the beast will do and all the troubles that the beast will cost us, but let's take one moment to think about the victory that will come, the reward that will come, and that will take away the fear among us. The second lesson I learned is that you are born for this time. Like Esther, God calls us to stand firm for him during the final crisis of this earth. Remember, we are not here by accident. Mordecai told Esther, maybe that's why God put you here. For such a time as this, stand up for your people and for God. That's what Mordecai said to Esther. So we are on this earth for a purpose. God wants us to stand firm for him during this final crisis of this earth's history. I pray that when final days come, we can be able to stand firm for God in these final days. That's what I can learn from this part. On Part Friday, on the final thoughts, as always, I leave it to you guys to share with me and to share with the rest of the people what you have learned from this lesson. Share this lesson with your friends in church, share it in your groups so that we can all grow together in faith. Thank you so much for watching, and may God protect you, may God be with you for the rest of this week that is coming ahead of us. I pray that he keeps you safe. I will see you again next week. Please stay safe and may God bless you. Bye-bye.